I'm going to take us to the biggest game of the week. I guess you could say Arkansas, Mississippi is the biggest college game of the week, but I'll say Penn State and Iowa is the biggest game of the week. Penn State right now getting 2.5, and I'm going to do exactly what you did with your first pick. A little bit of an Austin Mock special going to our college football modeler, because one of his plays for the week is not only Penn State with the 2.5, but Penn State money line in this game in Iowa City. I'll take the 2.5 points. It's not a huge difference on the payout, so I'll just go ahead. I'll take the 2.5. I'll take the little bit of the cushion here and ride with the Nittany Lions. Again, similar to the logic I have with the Rams and the Seahawks. I just think that that Penn State's a better team. I just think they're the better team. They've played a little bit better to this point. Their wins are just a little bit better. They have what I believe one common opponent to this point of the season, that being Indiana. Both of these teams taking care of business against Indiana, but Iowa has that really pretty looking 3 next to its name. But how did it get there? It got there again with a home win against Indiana that maybe looked a little bit better then than it does now. It got there with a road win at Iowa State, a nice win, but maybe looked a little bit better when Iowa State was the 9th-ranked team in the country than it does now. And then they beat Kent State, Colorado State, and Maryland. Not necessarily a murderer's row of opponents, especially with 2 of those games coming at home. Penn State, they haven't necessarily had the toughest schedule either this season, but clearly the best win out of any of these 2 teams is Penn State's win against Auburn in a game that Auburn came back late, but this was a game that Penn State really did control. So that's easily the best win that either of these teams has put up to this point of the season. Could Iowa get that win if given that opportunity? Sure, but we've seen it from Penn State. They went into Wisconsin week 1 of the season and won, and that game also looked better then than it does now with the struggles that Wisconsin has had offensively, but still a very good performance from Penn State in that one in a tough road environment. They had the same victory over Indiana, so you just match these 2 teams' resumes up against one another, and I think you're getting a little bit of line value on Penn State with the 2.5. So I'm comfortable going with that. I like getting the 2.5 points. I think money line is a fine play as well. Austin's got a little bit more stones than I do in going that way. I'll take the 2.5 point cushion any day that I can get it. And I know this was one that you were thinking about too. You're on the same side as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I like this Penn State team a lot. I mean, Sean Clover has been really solid. Jahan Dotson looks like one of the best players in the country. To be totally honest, I put a few dollars on him to win the Heisman last week. I'm watching the Indiana game, and I saw 150-1, and I said, okay, let's do it. And you can't find that line everywhere. Heisman long shots are kind of weird. But yeah, if you can find some value on him, and I know our college football writers did their own kind of early season Heisman straw poll, and he got a couple of votes. Like, okay, so we're in the running at least. and look, I think the offensive talent of Penn State is just much better than the offensive talent of Iowa. Iowa has that fantastic defense, and they've been turning the ball over almost maybe at an unsustainable rate that maybe kind of concerns me about that Iowa team going forward is can they continue to be dominant on defense. I could believe it, but to be dominant while turning it over and creating scoring opportunities for an offense that, let's be honest, isn't very good. I don't know if the Maryland game skewed it. I know going into that Maryland game, Iowa was last in the Big Ten in total yards per game. So they put up some numbers in that one. But let's be honest here. Iowa's offense is not a prolific top 5, what you think of from a top 5 team. Right. And I think Penn State's individual talent on offense is probably going to be the difference in that game. If Dotson has a couple big plays, I don't know if Iowa has the ability to match that. So I think it's a fascinating matchup. Penn State's offense versus Iowa's defense is really good stuff on paper. I'm excited to see this one play out. I do think Penn State's the better team. The only thing that worries me and why I would stay away is that it's in Iowa and that crowd's going to be rocking. Now, it's not quite a prime time game. It's a 3:00 local start over there. But I do like Penn State as the better team. Let's see if they can pull it off.
Yeah, the turnover issue that you mentioned is really the big one. How often, when you turning the other team over is your best form of offense, that's just a hard way to win games against very good teams, right? There's a big window where you can still be a dominant defense, but where you could struggle to put points on the board because it's a big difference between stopping a team and having them punt and pinning your team deep or putting your team not in plus territory versus you pick sixing, you creating short fields. That's a hard way to continue to win games, and Iowa might have that come to an end against Penn State this weekend.